But our lead this hour is from Philadelphia. The curtain and the championship banner went up to the rafters there. It was raised. The 2025 NFL season. Were you watching? Well, probably. I mean, this had to get a really good rating. Cowboys were involved, and so you had Jalen Hurts. We told you yesterday in one of the many DraftKings commercials that Jalen Hurts scoring a touchdown seemed like a good idea to us. He did, not only one, but two touchdowns. So Jalen Hurts rushing for 2 scores. The Eagles withstood a rare, although not quite as rare as it should be, weather delay, and they needed a late stop to beat the Cowboys 24-20, game ending early in the overnight hours in Philadelphia. There is the 65-minute delay, a wild start to the NFL season. Looked like the game would be in the 40s in the first half. The Eagles led 24-20 with 4:44 to go in the third quarter. So fours across the board. And then the game was delayed, as I mentioned, for 65 minutes because of lightning in the area. We'll get to that some point later on in the show around Lincoln Financial Field. So the game ended up just after midnight. I love these people that are used to working during the day. They get so freaked out. Oh, my God. Mike Tirico, I thought he was going to have a heart attack on NBC. He was like, oh, my God, the game ended after midnight. Oh, my God. Hey, Mike, there's people up overnight, you dope. They work the overnight shift, you moron. You might want to acknowledge the people that drive trucks and work in factories and make donuts. So when your fat ass goes to the donut shop, you can eat a donut in the morning. They're making them overnight, okay? So, I can't believe we ended it after midnight. Holy crap. Anyway, the Cowboys had a chance. They had multiple chances. Now, Dak Prescott threw an incomplete pass on a 4th down and 3. That was the final blow with 1:54 to go. The last gasp. The better story, though, is in the losing locker room. Losing locker room. We had the debut of Shotzi, Brian Schottenheimer. He took over as the coach. He's the latest sock puppet for Jerry Jones. And there's the story within the story here. If you saw the game, I believe you know where we're going with this. So many pointing the finger at CeeDee Lamb. That's the Dallas pass catcher. In fact, even CeeDee Lamb was pointing the fingers at him. He was pounding his chest like at the end of the game, kind of, hey, blame me. It was my fault. Bad job by me. He melted down in the fourth quarter of this game with multiple drop passes, including a backbreaker for the Cowboys. So let us discuss. Is it inbounds or is it out of bounds to blame CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys' loss? So is it inbounds to blame CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys' loss or out of bounds? So my thoughts on this, I've got Marvel Comics, iPhones, and hermit crab. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make cotton candy, which is about as tough as the Cowboys' defense was early in that game. Now, a better second half for Dallas defensively, but it's not about that. This is about the story within the story, CeeDee Lamb. Holy crap. Wow. Now, he did have 7 catches for 110 yards. So that's a good stat line if you play fantasy football. But in terms of the making a play when it mattered, he did not. Here is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer commenting on the night of CeeDee Lamb. Take a listen.
Don't worry about CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee's going to be fine. What a great player. Again, this was a team defeat, and we own that. We understand where we can go as a football team. We understand. I love the competition. I thought guys competed their butts off. I thought that was great. But we're all about winning, and we didn't win tonight, and so therefore it's not good enough.
Okay. If I was Jerry Jones, I'd fire Schottenheimer right now. I'd say, all right, you're not allowed to go back to Dallas. You're a dope. No. How about some accountability? How about your guy, your Mr. $100 million man, effed up? Why can't we say that? Oh, my God. What is it going to rain down lightning like it did in Philadelphia there when the game was delayed if you say that? This is the stuff about sports that just drives me insane. They just think you're a moron. The customer is a dope. You can't acknowledge what everyone sees, right? You're the $100 million man. You're supposed to be the difference maker.
That guy's a moron.
It's like Marvel Comics. I learned this from my friend Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. You're a $100 million receiver. That means when the ball's in the air and it hits your hands in the fourth quarter, you've got to make the play. You don't get the play. Well, I had 7 catches for 110 yards card, and your coach can defend you by saying, well, it's a team loss. Empty. Those are empty calories. They're empty stats by CeeDee Lamb. And Jerry Jones Cowboys, they pay this guy to be a special ingredient. Not everyone is treated the same. We know that. It's a meritocracy. No, it's not. Everyone's treated a little bit differently, right? The stars get a little more wiggle room. This is the thing. You get $100 million. That is supposed to separate you from a guy on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, okay? Any jabroni can go out there and drop the ball in crunch time. That's not a $100 million receiver. But wait, there's more. How about the other receiver, George Pickens, who I think had more success picking boogers out of his nose than he did in this game. He coming over from Pittsburgh, 3 catches for 30 yards. You know what that makes him? A jar. Just a receiver. And you can find those guys anywhere also. But I want to go back to CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is supposed to be more, right? And I don't want to live in a world. You can't criticize him. Oh, it's a team loss. Oh, I trust him. How would you trust him? How many times in sports have we seen when players get the yips? Sometimes they never recover from that. That was a yips game. Yippity, 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 yippity. It was a yip game, right? Don't let that distract you, all right? That the coaches out there say, oh, as a team loss. This was Lamb. When it mattered, he shrank. Right? He shrank. He was the guy who was wide open. Hero, down 4. Touchdown. You have the lead. Pressure on the Eagles. And he tripped over his own cape. You know, it's like if you ever go to Times Square, you know those rip-off Spider-Man, rip-off characters? Like a rip-off Spider-Man that tripped over his own cape in Times Square in a photo thing, trying to hustle people for money. Like, do better, be better. That's the whole job description when you're being paid to be the superhero. It's like when you make a movie and the movie tanks, do you say, well, we all were bad in the movie? Or do you say, well, the headliner of the movie sucked? You don't blame the extras in the movie. Like, that's not how any of this works. Where it bothers me. When it's money time, poof. This is the Cowboys. The stars vanish. And now it's not all on CeeDee Lamb, though. We got to pass the buck over to Dak Prescott. How did you grade Dak Prescott's performance for the Cowboys? So he wasn't in the very front of the vomit comet. That was CeeDee Lamb. However, he was riding shotgun in the vomit comet, Dak Prescott. Now, drops aside, he was an NGE, not good enough performer. NGE, not good enough. This was supposed to be, and it is, a measuring stick game. Now, we assume the position that the Cowboys are not going to be a playoff team. They weren't a playoff team last year. They have a worse team this year than they did last year. But that's the assumption. Right? You can change assumptions by your performance. The Eagles and Cowboys, this is an NFC East grudge match, which started with one of the key Eagle defenders ejected for spitting a nice, juicy loogie, the direction of Dak Prescott, who had spit on the ground. And some Eagle fans are like, well, see, Dak spit. We'll talk more about this later, but Dak spit on the ground, and they think that's equal to a loogie being spit by Jalen Carter on Dak Prescott. But in terms of Dak's performance, I would have rather had some phlegm in the second half. That would have done better, right? And so what Dak, if you look at this as a measuring stick, in the second half, he also shriveled up. Now, he didn't get help from CeeDee Lamb. But at halftime, as I was observing, you could say, hey, Dak was fine. I wouldn't say he was great in the first half. Would you say he was great? I wouldn't say he was great. I thought he was fine. He wasn't terrible. He passed the test. The last person that graduates medical school, they call a doctor. They still call him a doctor. Dak Prescott wasn't killing the Cowboys. He wasn't killing the Eagles. But then in the second half, it was how low can you go? It was how low can you go in the second half? How bad was it? It was cover your eyes bad. Dakota, after halftime, was 9 of 17 passing. He completed a little less than 55% of his passes, averaged 3.5 yards per pass. My God. That is a referendum on Dak Prescott. And this is one of the arguments that Dak Prescott, he got paid and Jerry Jones has gotten played because he's a fraud, Dak Prescott. He's a phony quarterback that puts up numbers against god-awful teams. And then against better teams, he doesn't elevate people. And he doesn't rise to the challenge and all that. And that's the argument. And if you had done a blind side-by-side examination and said, okay, here's quarterback A, and here's quarterback B and their performance in the second half, you would have said, well, is that Anthony Richardson? Or, that's Dak Prescott. That's an Anthony Richardson stat line outside of he didn't quit and take himself out of the game like that gutless Anthony Richardson. Or the other thing is, you say, well, he didn't turn the ball over. But Richardson, the definition of bad, losing your job to Daniel Jones, but just a scatter shot, short-arming throws, totally lost in the moment. And Jerry Jones could have gone out and gotten a guy from the XFL to do all that. Dak Prescott in the second half, you know what he was like? If you didn't hear the game or see the game, Dak was like one of those iPhones, one of those older iPhones where the battery says 40%, and then you open up your Instagram app, and then it dies within a second as soon as you open it up. You're like, well, so it said 40%, but it died. Why did it die? It said 40%. 40% is supposed to last a while. Well, no, it died right away because the battery's defective. And you're like, what the hell happened here? He just shut down. Dak turned into a pumpkin after halftime. And he did get some help. CeeDee Lamb did help him by dropping a pass. But even if that catch had been made by CeeDee Lamb, it still was not a wonderful second-half performance by Dak Prescott. All right, now last word. So we had celebrities in the house. NBC, if you were watching the broadcast, made sure to shove this down our throats. Were you surprised that Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player ever, Michael Jordan, was at the Eagles game? All right, so I was surprised. I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't surprised. But MJ showing up at an NFL opener, it's kind of like going in your backyard and seeing a unicorn. You don't expect to see a unicorn in your backyard. You don't think you'd see a unicorn because unicorns aren't real, but there's a unicorn in your backyard. Like, this is the living legend, the basketball equivalent of a 5-star general, Michael Jordan. And he doesn't just pop out for any Tom, Dick, and Harry sporting event. And mainly, the main reason I'm surprised is because he's a recluse in terms of the sports world. He doesn't need to ever leave his mansion, his casa. He doesn't need to. Like, Jordan's about as public as a hermit crab in a titanium shell, right? He's richer than rich. He's oligarch rich. And yet, here we are. This is MJ's second football game this week as he sat through, I think he left at halftime, the Bill Belichick debacle for his Tar Heels, getting squashed flatter than a soda can under a steamroller. That's 2 games in 1 week. You know the odds on that? The odds on that, that's like the Pope making it back-to-back nights at a dive bar down the street from the Vatican, right? You wouldn't expect to see that either. So Jordan was at the game as a guest, we are told, of Jalen Hurts. So then it makes a little more sense. Because this wasn't just MJ saying, I got to watch a football game. It wasn't that. Wasn't feeling nostalgic for some pigskin. It wasn't that at all. He was there as a Jalen Hurts VIP. It's all part of that Jordan brand mafia. Hurts is a disciple of Michael Jordan. And then with Jalen Hurts hitting the Jordan shrug after one of the touchdowns that he scored, that was pure Hollywood. It's almost like that was scripted, made for TV. You had the NBC cameras drooling like a dog over a T-bone. They're all excited. They're all horny because they get to show Jordan. He got a no-show job like Kawhi has. Jordan will be spewing cliches on NBC when the basketball season starts here. Before long, man, it's already September, so the season starts around Halloween, so it'll be here before you know it. But it was a nod to the GOAT by Jalen Hurts there, and that was the moment there. So, anyway.